All right, I'm joined today with Toby Witte, who's the principal of Wittehaus, which is a design firm in North Carolina, specializing in custom modern homes. Toby, why don't you give us a little introduction?
Yeah. Hi, Chris. It's great being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'm Toby. Yeah, I'm specialized in designing modern and energy efficient homes in North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm nibbling a little bit on Southern Virginia as well. Our claim to fame is that we take our clients by their hand and take them all through the entire process, help them find a property, make a plan with them of what works and what doesn't work for them. Obviously also the design, that's where our heart lies. And then we're there doing the construction. We find a builder for them, all the way to moving in and even beyond. And so we try to make it one easy, fun process for them.
And last year, or actually over the last couple of years, you've written a book. And the name of the book is Supersizing Bliss. But what I find really intriguing too is sort of the subtitle of the book, right? How we betrayed our homes and the happiness that we seek.
Yes.
So when I read this book, it was kind of a gut punch at first, right? The first sort of section, because this is not a feel-good book about it's not just a feel-good book about creating a nice home, but it's really critical, right? And on what our housing has become,
Yes.
And then it dives deep into many of the different conversation points that you should be having.
Yeah, exactly. I think it began out of one too many client meetings in which I felt that we were talking about the wrong things, or not client meetings, but like prospective clients meetings, I should say.
Yeah.
And I thought that there should be, I was thinking about all kinds of different things and concerns for their benefit. But we got right away sort of stuck into certain metrics and things that everybody seems to have heard or seen on HGTV. Who knows? And so I thought if they just had a book that kind of puts them in a headspace that I can relate to, that would be fantastic. And so I set out to do just that. And I do feel that like 99% of the houses that are offered to us are just not any good. They're the process of a housing industry that is profit-driven and not out there to create better living surroundings for ourselves. And so I go in the book a little bit into that. How is it that we are living in these kind of homes? Who's involved in making them, and then turn the page and say, okay, now that we established that, let's forget about it and do it right. And then I could dive into some paths to how to consider it differently.
What I also really like too about the book is that you don't necessarily give all the answers, right? I think you describe it as a collection of thoughts, right? And it's questions that people should be asking themselves about really what brings them happiness.
Yeah, exactly. When I began writing, I gave myself a way out, if you will, by saying, I think originally I had a subtitle that was something like vignettes of a search or something of the sort. I was basically telling myself, all right, let's just put down my thoughts and see what they take me, and then if maybe a book can be formed out of it. And so I don't want this to be prescriptive when I engage with my clients. It's not prescriptive. What's the word?
Prescriptive,
prescriptive. And so, by the by, my funny accent is because I'm from Germany originally, so can't get rid of it. Still looking for words every now and then. It's not. So I'm trying to understand them and where they're coming from, how their lives look like, and what why are we meeting up here? What is it they're yearning for? And while I have a certain direction I take them, or a certain outlook and certain understandings, certain expertise, at the end of the day, each project is different. And so, I want the book to sort of help them ask questions themselves and maybe allow them to find answers that surprise me. At the same time, I didn't want to be too vague and offer some specifics and examples from projects in the past and give them ideas and outlooks of what can be achieved. But yeah, I mean, I certainly want it to be a conversation, or starter point for a conversation.
When do you think that it's a good time for clients to read this book?
Yeah, I think anytime really. I now tend to give them a copy before we start, or I should say before we start a design process, which there's a long way before that and a lot of things we do. And so there's time, and there's time before we, there's time to solidify the points of interest, what needs to be done, what needs to happen, the success points. And so I hand it out to them in most cases, a lot of times beforehand. And so, yeah, I had just a client meeting, prospective client meeting, and they had read the book and all the other information that I shared with them, and they were like ready to go. And so,
yeah,
but now we're in the process of finding a property for them. And so we still ways out before we even look at the design. But so it's a great time to kind of reshape the conversation and give them and me a chance to look at everything, with a fresh eye.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, like reading the book before you get started on a project. But I would even suggest that people maybe even get a copy and read it well in advance of that. Maybe even a year out, right? If you're
Yes.
a client and you're just thinking about like, I want to build a custom home, or I want to have a really substantial renovation, and I want to design it for the way that I live, and I want it to be designed around the things that sort of bring me happiness and stuff like that, rather than just sort of these cookie cutter sort of solutions, right? And maybe
Yes.
you're a year out, right? Maybe you're a year out from starting the process. Like, read the book, because you might waste that year looking at all these, Pinterest boards and stuff, that might set you on the wrong path. But, read the book, and your thought process, I think, will be changed. So
Thanks for the big plug. I mean, certainly. I mean, I do, I do want this book to stand alone on its own as a book that's enjoyable to read. And it doesn't mean it's not a precursor to designing a house with me by any means. I want it to be an enjoyable book to read no matter what. It has been fun to see it in bookstores, on bookshelves. I talked to one builder in Asheville who found it in a used bookstore. I'm like, that's a measure of success right there. Somebody read it and passes it on, and somebody else finds it. So yeah, certainly it was a plan for it to stand on its own. How about? But I mean, must be similar for you, right? You have your own book out there, and I feel like it stands. I read it, and I feel like it certainly stands on its own feet, and doesn't need. It's not. Doesn't, you're not shackled if you read it. No worries. You don't necessarily have to build a house, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think my book sort of focuses on the steps, right? The process that someone takes to go through a project, because a lot of people that I talk to, that come to me for a new home or a substantial renovation, they don't know the steps, right? They don't know, what am I supposed to do, like step one, or what is schematic design, and then what sort of things am I needed to provide to my architect to get through these steps. And so that's where my book comes in. It's kind of like more sort of like along the lines of like, this is what you need to expect, but it really doesn't get into like, this is like things that you should think about. And that's why I really think that your book is a great sort of complementary to that. And it really sort of, I mean, even myself, as who's been an architect for, I don't know, probably 25 years at this point, that it made me think about things differently. And so, it was really nice to read.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear. Yeah.
So some of the let me just before we sort of get on to the next topic here, let me just sort of like read some of the, not the chapters, but like the sections, and that's so that people listening can sort of get an idea of what to expect if they get the book. So it's divided into several sections, right? The first section is Priming Bliss, which is myths and forces that have shaped our homes. And then you have the building blocks of bliss, the pillars on which your house should be built around. Tugging at bliss, the realities that have shaped our homes. And then going for bliss, examples and ideas to help you reach the luxury that you seek. Do you want to talk more about any of those? Maybe especially like the last section, the going for bliss, because I think after you sort of give that gut punch that I mentioned earlier about like how we've been thinking about our homes wrong, and you really get into towards the end on the going for bliss, you really give those examples on things that people should consider, as they're thinking about their home.
Yeah, exactly. I should say that there's sort of a up and down with these chapters, or with these sections rather, where in the first section, I go a little bit in both direction. Here's a couple things of why we do the things the way we do. And then a couple sort of chapters in there where I'm kind of showing how the opposite look like, the beautiful, happy end of it. And so in the same way, these sections kind of seesaw up and down. And actually, the second section, the building blocks of bliss, is where I personally felt like the sort of punch comes, where I talk about 4 specific things that are really dear to my heart, and I think are a quick way to enrich a living environment. And I talk about structure, the quality of space, texture of materials, and then the light and shadow, and how to form livable spaces out of these pieces. In the very last section, I then sort of build on that and kind of add more pieces to that puzzle. And throughout the book, I also provide some anecdotes of how these things come to play. And I hope that they're sometimes relatable. I mean, for instance, the space part, the quality of space, for me, that's really the center of it all, right? To create a space that somehow has a positive effect on our lives. And I tell the story of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., how that just has a powerful effect. And I hope that many people had a chance to see it. I talk about simple ideas like a cathedral, walking into that space versus a prison cell on the opposite end, hoping to kind of, with a quick punch, instill the idea, right? Or the sort of sense, I know what the space is and how it makes me feel, right? So that it's not too esoteric. And then, in the last section, I go a little deeper and tell some, show some examples of how all of this sort of played out in some projects of mine, and some other aspects of this that kind of, hopefully help the whole process. The tugging at bliss in the middle was kind of fun, because I got to say sort of like I give some hints beforehand how happiness looks like in our built environment, and then I go, okay, people, now let me sort of rip it out of your hand, because here's what we actually are doing, and how we're destroying all of this, and how not to do it. Like, one of my pet peeves are, I suppose, is that people think that we're trained, we're conditioned to think that more square feet means a better home. And that's also where the title of the book is sort of playful a little bit around, right? Supersizing Bliss, where I say essentially, let's not focus on the size of the home, but rather the size of the happiness that we can draw out of it. And it's weird how our building industry, marketing, the whole bit is all about sort of, if I just add more square feet, life is better. My house is more expensive. It's more important. The way we value homes is right in there. It's square feet, number of square feet. It's essentially square foot times zip code is how much your house is valued. And it's like mind-boggling to me, because in my head, the purpose of what we do is to create a stage for our lives where our lives get enriched, where we are happier, where we are affirmed, where we just sort of get to shed all the problems of work or the stress of it, find ourselves, find each other as a family or as a couple. And certainly the size, the square feet, has nothing to do with it. And so, yeah, anyways, I get to sort of rip those sort of preconceived notions apart and ask questions. Really, is that what we really want to do? How about we look at it like this and look at these things instead?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
because you say what you say, like living in a home is a luxury, right? And so, if you value just the square footage and the zip code, that doesn't bring you any happiness. So instead, place the value on your family and or your personal life and what you need to, find that happiness and design your home around that rather than the square footage and the zip code. I think that was it's a really powerful message.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had the privilege to design and build the home that my family and I live in. And so we have 3 daughters. The first 2 just have moved out. The first one a couple of years back, and the second one just moved out. But we lived in here long enough with them being teenagers. The house, so it's 5 of us, and the house is 1,700 square feet. And on paper, that looks rather tight and small and cramped. And it would be if it were designed sort of like it's a traditional home where we just put these cells next to each other. Yep. One cell for eating, one cell for cooking, one cell for watching TV. And so you're in these little boxes and going from one box to another, one cramped space to the next. And so it turned out that the 1,700 square feet ended up being more than enough to feel luxurious, open. It was spacious. They had, each of the 3 girls had their own private large room to hide in, like teenagers need to. But they also had these visual connections that they experienced each other, their sisters. And so they felt it helped them feel like being in a sisterhood and being together. And then the spaces where we would gather as a family open up to each other. And so there was a gradation between large open spaces and smaller cozy spaces. There were nooks and crannies for our life to work. And it was beautiful. And it's a very luxurious living, even though we didn't, it was relatively inexpensive build for us. It had to be. But that luxury comes from something else, right? It comes from just being designed right, where large windows with connections to the outside, these kind of qualities I just described, how our family life can unfold in there with comfort and ease and just the right kind of spatial expression for it, with the sort of richness of textures that we bring in and work around, and all those kind of things that I describe in the book. And I thought always a great example because I get to blow people's mind when I tell them, yeah, it's 1,700 square feet, 5 people, 3 teenagers, ought to be impossible, but it hasn't been.
Do you want to go into a little bit about the sort of the energy efficient and sort of the sustainable building measures that can be implemented in a home and sort of how you work that into your practice and your design process and in terms of designing one of these high quality homes?
Yeah, absolutely. It is without doubt that we are way behind. Our homes are in general energy pits. They're not sustainable, and we are running out of time. We have no choice but to turn around and look at the way we design and build homes closely. The difficulty or the stumbling block that many people feel is the question of cost, right? And it's already way too expensive. I can't afford a home already as it is. Now you're talking about energy efficiency. And so the question for me has been over the last years, what is out there that we can implement right now that doesn't have to cost you more, or if it does cost a little extra, it's not too much, and it feels good that when right that we spend it on our home. Yeah, those measures have now become our design standards, and they're very simple. Many of them are very simple and straightforward. And so and you know all of them too. So, but thanks for bringing it up so we can talk about it. So, like, the number one thing is just to design the home to the site and the sun, right? So I always tell the quick story to my clients. It's like the best sun is from the south. It's the most beautiful sun. From a sense, it's warm and cozy, but you can also control it. And so essentially what I say is we put on a baseball cap on our home and give it the visor where we can let in the warm winter sun that is low, and when we want it inside, and heat up the home. And then when it's high in the summer, it keeps it out. The visor keeps out that sun and doesn't heat up our home when we try to cool it. And then essentially close off to all the other sides. Very simple, very straightforward. It doesn't cost you any extra to, it's just how you design it. Just look at the side, look at the orientation. It provides you also the opportunity to do other things, looking at privacy issues, where your views and other things, and put all these pieces in the way where all that kind of works hand in hand. Another more technical part is that I try to say that we essentially live in homes where the windows are wide open while we cool and heat, meaning that they're so porous, our homes. The air goes out in all kind of holes that is all over our home, and we're just heating and cooling our front yard. It's ridiculous. And so it's relatively straightforward to create a home and these are passive home kind of standards. They're very simple. Create an insulation shell around your entire living space. So have your, right? Think of your living space as a bubble, as a balloon, and the skin around it, if you will, is all insulation all around. And then the same skin provides air tightness all around, so that what we are conditioning inside the home doesn't need that much energy because it's well insulated all around, and then it doesn't escape the space because it's airtight all around. And it has a lot, and right there, you can almost drop the mic and leave it at that, because with that comes so many good things, right? Suddenly you have better air quality. I was just talking to somebody, energy consultant, and he's like, I just want to tell people that I can't talk about how much better of a living environment you create with all of these things. They don't understand it. I just want to tell them we're going to create a home that is bug-free. Right? I mean, everybody has these problems with their bugs in their homes. Well, if you build an airtight home, there's no place for them to come in. And I was like, well, that's brilliant, of course.
Yeah.
And the side effects are all there then, it's done.
Yeah, I take sort of two similar approaches when you mentioned designing to the site and controlling the sun on the south. I have a similar anecdote that I tell my clients, but it's more about not so much about energy efficiency, but more about sort of how they live in their home. But it's very similar to what you were saying. What I say is, like, I take this and explain that you can have this imaginary couple, right? And one of them likes to wake up really early in the morning and get up and watch the news or have a cup of coffee or work out or whatever. And the other one likes to sleep late, right? And I said that if you place the bedroom on the side of the home that is away from the morning sun, and maybe windows that don't point south, but maybe your windows are pointing north or whatever, depending on what climate you're in, and then you place the kitchen area in the spot that receives that morning sun, then the person that likes to wake up early and has that morning cup of coffee gets to have the morning cup of coffee in the sunlight, and the person that sleeps late gets to sleep later in the darkness. And every time I'd tell that story, everybody's like, "Oh my God, that is exactly us. That's exactly how we want." And it's like, that doesn't cost any money. Locating the bedroom on the left side of the house or the right side of the house doesn't cost you anything, but it really can affect how you live in your home.
Yes.
And then the same thing too about the windows being just these energy leaks. And I think I first heard it I can't remember if it was through Mike Maines and the BS and Beer crew where I first heard this, or it could have been through Building Science Corporation. But if you think of the best, highest quality window, it still performs worse than your builder grade code minimum wall, right? So the highest quality window performs worse than your lowest quality wall. So if you're going to invest any money in your envelope, number one, the exterior sort of continuous insulation, like you mentioned, but then put more money into your windows because that's where your biggest energy leak is.
Yes.
And so, maybe that sacrifices the granite countertops or maybe you have to have Trex decking instead of an Ipe decking, right? But you'll save more money in terms of operating costs, but your house is going to be more comfortable. And I like to talk about comfort but the bugs is a good one. I like the bugs. I'm gonna
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's brilliant what you just described there. I mean, that's exactly what it is. These ideas, these measures, they're not rocket science, and they have been out there. I was just thinking that I don't know, there were a couple of really hot days here this summer and our air conditioning was running. And I was thinking I stepped outside and essentially just sort of like, forget it, turn around and went back inside. And I was wondering, how did people sort of live in this without air conditioning? And of course, some of the older homes, tall ceilings, the porches around the homes down here in the south, all of these measures, they were just simple measures to create cross breeze through the house. Simple measures that made these spaces actually work for your benefit. And at some point we decided, well, energy is cheap. We can build crappy homes and just blast the AC all day long. Yeah. But we no longer have that luxury, and we just have to, go back and look at all of these brilliant things we've already come up with. And then, there's so many now materials out there too that you get to choose from that are already tried and tested. One great piece I think that we discovered here, there's such a thing as carbon captured concrete. Concrete is one of the the biggest culprits of pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Creating or destroying that is unbelievable to me. I mean, we're like, a couple feet away from the outer universe out there where we cannot survive. We have this, little shell around us that makes us survive on this planet, and we elected to actively sort of destroy that. And concrete is one of the biggest culprits. I mean, the numbers I forgot now. It's astonishing how much concrete alone does the damage. And so what's available to us here in the Carolinas is this carbon capture concrete, where actually the carbon out of smokestacks is being taken and infused into the concrete, makes the concrete better. And so we're actually encapsulating some of that CO2 into the concrete and reducing the load, the damage to our atmosphere. And so and it's literally a push of a button. I think it's a lever at the concrete plant. All we have to do is say, we want that. They turn the lever, and there comes the concrete. It looks the same, acts the same. It's a little better, a little stronger, works a little better. Yeah, it's like a no-brainer.
It is. I hope it becomes more popular, in a greater sort of sense around the country and around the world, actually. I haven't had the opportunity to use the carbon capture concrete yet, and I've actually done a few ICF homes, which is kind of like you going up and down. Like, good, you got the continuous insulation sort of on both sides of your envelope, and it's really creates a really comfortable home where you barely need to run the heat or air conditioning. You have all that thermal mass, but on the other hand, it's like that's a lot of concrete. Right. So, it'd be great to be able to do that sort of that sort of house, by using the carbon capture concrete, I think is, really makes it, that much better. Do you know if there's any additional cost for the carbon capture?
It's a tad more expensive simply because it's not, for some odd reason, ask me why, it's not being used that by everybody as much. And so every time they have to switch and, pull that lever, it's a complication in the process, and then also in the delivery process. And so that alone makes it a titch more expensive. But I think in the overall scheme of it, it hardly shows up.
Yeah, exactly. Because, people do get hyper focused on like, oh my God, this is going to cost me a little bit more. But like, if you're building a $1 million home or a $5 million home, a percentage point here and there isn't really gonna have that much effect on your total build. Yeah,
and I think it's not for long where, we should already be all walking around with with a bad conscience about how we are sort of leaving the planet behind, and how we're destroying our own habitat. And I feel like, certainly within my own lifetime, I think it's where we won't be able to look away anymore as we have been. And so having a home that we get to say, I tried my best to reduce the problems and possibly even add or, have positive effect. When we are able to say that, then we get to sleep better at night, and it adds to the happiness and the bliss that we ought to have in our homes. Not to be sort of high-minded here or anything. The side effects are a better environment for yourself. They're more balanced temperatures, better air quality, no bugs. Mitigating the sunlight with the design means also more beautiful light inside the home. It means literally that you actually can have a view, and you don't have to close your windows because the sun is beating down on it. And so the benefits are if you will, selfish, make me feel good, hedonistic kind of benefits. They're all there as a side effect, if you will. And so if you are sort of paying attention, maybe spend a little extra money, it's not just giving you a lower energy home, lowers your energy bill, and is better for the environment, but it also just simply creates a better living environment for you.
Yeah. So it's everyone wins.
Everybody wins.
Everyone wins. Yeah. So do it. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about how you guide your clients through the home design process, and what are sort of the steps that you take to, because first off, if anyone's watching, you should pause the video right here and go check out Toby's work, because the houses that Toby designs are amazing, right? And I'll post a link to his website, or you can follow him on Instagram and YouTube and all the different places. So Toby creates some very amazing modern homes, but I'd really love to learn a little bit how you guide your clients through that process of creating those custom homes.
Thank you for that, Chris. That means a lot. Well, yeah, I think that actually that guidance is the number one service that we provide to our clients. And so it is essentially, I think the backbone of it all is sort of and it's a constant learning process. How do I translate everything that we get to deal with into a meaningful step-by-step process for our clients? Because what we do is essentially a prototype every single time. And there's a lot of people involved, a lot of questions, a lot of choices. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of sort of personal importance to it. This is where my life is going to take place. My family is being housed. My retirement is going to be. What am I leaving behind? There's so much baked into this. And, that and then, we have binders of building codes and zoning issues and technical problems and buildabilities and all of this stuff in our head. What of all of that is sort of relevant to our clients, and how do we take them from step to step, and how do we create a sort of beautiful, enjoyable, wonderful journey through it all. And one of our last projects, our client, she said, this has been her happiest time of her life. We weren't even done.
Yeah.
We were at the last stages of finishing the home. And that's like usually where everybody's freaking out and is about to sue everybody and their grandma. But not here. I mean, has been a process all the way through where they got to be fulfilled. And so how do we do that? I think at the very beginning, it takes like just months or 2, sometimes 3 or longer when from the time our clients come to us and the actual design process starts. And that is us providing them with lots of information. That's the first thing. When they sign up, come to our website, the first thing that we send out is a design starter guide, which is like 20-some pages of just information. This is how it looks like. These are the steps. Here's what to expect. Yes, it's going to be more expensive than you think. It'll take longer than you think. But here's what it is. And we meet up with them in different stages. We'll find a property for them. And then we actually create a blueprint for the process specific to them, to their project, where we say, okay, here's the things you want, but here's the things you are going to get because you can't afford the helicopter landing pad. We tell them how long the design process and the construction will most likely take, what to expect. All these things we put into a document, 8 pages or so, that boils it all down. This is what we're doing. This is where we're taking all of this. This is sort of the map of the adventure you're about to begin. And then we sort of unravel that piece by piece. And then we continue through everything, but in the same way. And we remain with them through the entire process. And so, for instance, halfway through the design process, we bring a builder on board. Or whether we introduce a builder to our clients with the hope they find somebody that they can trust and that seems right for them, their personality, but also for the project and the qualities that our clients seek. And so we pick one for them, have an interview. If it's not the right team, then we'll find the next one and have them provide a preliminary cost estimate so that we can make adjustments before the design is done. They are doing the construction. We bring, depending on each project, we bring different people to the team. Sometimes there's an interior designer, sometimes not. Energy efficiency experts, structural engineers. Sometimes we have to have even a civil engineer, landscape architect. Depending on what it is, we bring them on board and we work with all of them and our clients. And we are always there as the sort of connecting piece between all of them. And so that the clients get to choose how much they want to be involved with the structural engineer or how much not, right?
Yeah.
And we try to package everything into pieces that are, palatable to our clients and at the right time, in the right step. And so that we talk about one thing and then about the next thing and just unravel the whole process piece by piece. So work becomes fun, interesting, and they have the opportunity to bring themselves to the whole thing and get to shine, get to explore, get to pick and choose and kind of design the house with us piece by piece.
Yeah, so it becomes like this conversation between you and the client and talking about their lives. I'd imagine you already sort of mentioned earlier that you start with the site, right? And sort of positioning around the sun. I think that's really important. And I'd imagine sort of the next step is the programming and having, those detailed conversations about, how they live in their lives and what sort of spaces that they want in your homes. And do you ever get into any fun exercises on like, like talking about like clients' routines, like monthly or weekly or morning routine versus night routine, and then like looking at the program and saying, here's some things that we can do with the program to sort of make these sort of unique spaces?
All of that, yes.
Yeah.
All of that happens. So I try to draw as much of that out as I can at the beginning. So we have that. And then the very first step in the design is exactly that. It's just, we're just moving boxes around and we're saying what you described earlier. Well, we're going to put your bedroom here for those reasons and your kitchen there for those reasons. And we just sort of moving these boxes around and talk about why we're doing this for all of these millions of reasons. And that's where we're going to throw things around, move one thing to the other side and vice versa, whatever needs to happen to find the right answer at that stage. And there's no floor plans, there's no elevations, no materials. It's just sort of like qualities. We have a Pinterest board we set up where they get to collect pictures and ideas of certain moods and feelings and spaces and things they like, and where we get to say, how you wanted to live here in this space and enjoy this, and that looks so cool and you like that. Well, that's what that box is a representation of, this box over here that we're now moving around. And so we get to sort of address those issues, address those routines and the way they live right from the get-go, just by orienting pieces of this conglomerate at the beginning. And then it slowly turns into more tangible pieces. But we then don't have to go back and make drastic changes. They're all being figured out at the beginning. The big
because you set up that framework which you can work with it, and that's I think really important. And it's all, and I'm sure you find this as well, but it's always amazing to me, like clients, they've never gone through this process before, right? So this is all new to them, and and it's kind of our job, to guide them through it. I get on some of those early meetings, I have a very similar process, and some of the early meetings, like sometimes I'm working with clients and they're like, well, what does the floor plan look like? Or what is, I want to have this sort of trim around my windows. And I'm like, no, we're not there. We're not there yet. We're just talking about ideas. And it takes them a while, I think, to get into that mindset and to understand that you just don't start off with what the house is going to look like, right? That's not the starting point. And it might be, like you said, it might be a month or two before you even get there to even beginning to resemble what sort of the plan or the elevation might look like. So, and a lot of people, I think, are just accustomed. They're just accustomed to going to Target or Best Buy and buying a TV and coming home with it, and they sort of expect that designing something that's unique and custom to them is going to be the same sort of experience.
Yeah, that's why, like I mentioned earlier, I like to call this sort of creating a prototype each time. Yeah. And so you don't. You have to, and that's the benefit of it all. That's the real reason that my clients go into doing a custom home, that we get to do it from scratch to fit their lives, and so we have to draw all of that out. And it's funny because they have to be kind of honest. And so, like, I don't know. For instance, at the very beginning, we have this questionnaire we let them fill out, and it's by design they have to fill it out by hand. And because it's interesting because suddenly there's two handwritings in two different spaces, and there's like a thought process on paper you can see. And in most cases my clients are a couple, and so you get to see so the beginning steps of, even though they've been married for a gazillion years, there are differences and sort of preferences between the things, and maybe things they didn't allow themselves to express before. And so I have to kind of allow them to be able to voice all of that and bring it out, and so that at the end of the day better be right and fit what they would experience. Yeah.
Do you make them fill it out separately, or do you tell them to do it together?
I let them do. I'm not whichever way that it works for them. Yeah, but I certainly allow in our conversations for both of them to speak and drill. You already said that about my book, so I guess I have a penchant for also finding the crevices, listening to them, and drill into it and say, okay, wait. You say A and you say B. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've had people fill out my questionnaire, and sometimes they do it together, sometimes they do it separately. Other times, just one does it and doesn't even consult with the other one. When I had one particular project where the clients filled out the questionnaire separately, and they didn't share their answers with each other, and they gave them both to me, and I read them like these are two conflicting things, and it's like it's kind of good to get that out up front. Like, okay, you're saying this, but you're saying that, and there's sort of
yes.
two completely different objectives here.
That's actually the best when that happens.
I agree, because then you can really sort of explore what the solution is, rather than just checking a box like okay, we
Yes.
did that, we did that, we did that sort of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It's such an interesting, conversation and an endless sort of consideration how to best meet our clients. And it took me the longest time to realize that I pride myself in the skills, right, that I accumulated over the years. But that's hardly the point in the engagement with my clients. It's not how I chop the onion or whatever, fling the pan, but rather it's the dish that we are creating. And they expect that I know how to chop the onion or how to treat the ingredients or what to do with them and all of that, or what goes together, what doesn't go together, what enhances the flavors.
Yeah.
Great analogy. But it's about them, the meal, the dish, the taste, the experiences, what happens on their palate when they eat. All of that is the point. And so how do we engage with our clients? That's where it is, right? To all of that. What is that? Let's bring that out. Let's ask you all the right questions. And understand what it is, so that then we can go back in our kitchen and fling the knives and do what we do and bring our skill sets out. And they don't even have to look into the kitchen. We just, unless that sort of pieces of that become part of the experience. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's really, you really have to kind of focus them too on those things that they value that are going to improve their lives, rather than the mindset of like a preconceived notion on what a house is, right? And it's more about about what you dream about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, if a project, there was end result of it, the home blows their mind and blows my mind, I think we have succeeded, right? Well, on top of them loving it and wanting to live in it. And I remember, dude, so when we designed and built our home, I mean, this is not, honest to God, we could not wipe the smiles of our faces for weeks. I mean, months. It was just such a sense of relief and home having arrived. And it was just so perfect. And we have lived here now for 7.5 years or so, and it's like this stress relief outside of this place. And that's the success, right? But on top of that, if we in the meantime create something where they I myself go like, oh my God, that's freaking brilliant. I've never seen anything like it. This is so cool. How the sun comes in here and ripples across this and whatever. And when we discover some sort of new piece of design that is just fascinating, then icing on the cake.
Yeah, and that just brings us back to the book too, right? And that's stop thinking about I want a 4-car garage and 3.5 bedrooms, and I want a 10-foot island in my kitchen, because that stuff doesn't really matter. And like the whole point of your book back there is it just completely changes the way that a client should approach thinking about a house, and it's you want that experience that you just shared about living in your home. We want that for all your clients.
Exactly.
And that's what the end goal is.
Yeah. And it's not, how should I put it? It's not easy, or it takes a little confidence on our behalf to go and say, okay, I understand you're talking about the trim, you said earlier, here, now, and that's very important. Let me write this down and we'll get to it. But let me ask you why you're bringing that up. What is behind it? What are you going for? And break it apart so that essentially I don't disregard their concerns, but have a chance to look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And see why they bring that up. And you know, I don't know, when you sort of threw out whatever, a 10-foot kitchen island counter or something, then, you know, it's like, well, what are you talking about? Where is that coming from? Why are you bringing that up? How do you actually cook? How do you prepare meals? Yeah. Oh, you just use a microwave? What do you need a 10-foot island then for? Oh, it's for actually because you want to gather, have bar stools and have whatever it is. Oh, so because you entertain a lot and you have your buffet set up. Well, then let's design for that. Let's make that happen and not use a 10-foot kitchen island for it, but actually design it in a way that it actually works for what you want to do and what's important to you and makes you feel good and add value to your life at the end of the day, and then find that solution. And it turns out, lo and behold, it's not a 10-foot island, but who knows what. Actually was needed.
I think we should switch gears a little bit here and have a little fun. Let's talk about the Monday morning mischief. Want to explain that?
Yes. Well, there are small little YouTube videos that stand in the shadow of your awesome videos that you put out there and the viewership you have garnered. But they might be very similar, actually, to your videos where I, a while back, just sat down and tried to answer questions my clients have or talk about things that I think might be interesting to our clients, as you know, that we just happen to experience on a project or so, and they're short, 2 to 5 minutes, seldom there, maybe 7, 8 tops. I can probably a few, but yeah, try to make them as fun and engaging as I can possibly do. The book actually kind of grew out of some of these videos too.
Oh yeah.
So that's what they are, and I put them out every 2 weeks. And yeah, just put a little video together, and they've been great conversation starters with people. I've been to get to social events where, I mean, people would come up to me and start talking to me like in a very personal manner. And I was wrecking my brain. Who's Bob? I'm never trying to, I can't get my phone out and look up Bob. And then it turns out that they have watched my, number of my videos, and they feel like they already know me.
Yeah. I really like those the Monday morning mischief videos. They're nice little bite-sized chunks, and they're very intriguing, right? I always come away questioning something, right? Or at least having some fun, because you make them really fun. So. Definitely subscribe to Toby's YouTube channel and watch the Monday morning mischief. Do you post them on Instagram too, right?
Yeah. So I think they're kind of, the systems all change constantly. So I do put them out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, what's it called? And wherever else. And then I put links everywhere else, Facebook, LinkedIn and stuff. But some of those platforms change their, settings sometimes. And so YouTube allows them to be as long as they need to be. And
they're definitely fun. Are there any off the top of your head that sort of stand out that are?
Yeah. Well, one that might have had a big influence on the book is, I forgot what the title of the video is. I want to say The School Bus. And I simply make the point, a school bus costs exactly as much as a sports car. And I had to, it wasn't easy to find the cost on a school bus. Apparently, there isn't really a sticker price on it, but rather each school district kind of negotiates their own terms. Must be a big racket. But roughly speaking, $250,000, you can buy yourself can be a proud owner of a school bus, or you can buy yourself a Mac Daddy sports car, right? Some Lamborghini or something. I think I talk about a Maserati. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Wittehaus's Monday Morning Mischief, where I, Toby of Wittehaus, waste your time, giving you a glimpse into my world of modern and energy-efficient homes. Today, the school bus. For about $140,000, you can call yourself the proud owner of a brand spanking new Type C school bus. You can seat over 80 people. Pushed by a 200 horsepower engine, you can haul up to 33,000 pounds. All with a stellar 6 mile per gallon efficiency. At 300 square feet, you're looking at an affordable $467 per square foot. Or, for the same capital investment, you can purchase your sports car of choice and take it on a spin. Same price, 2 people, $1,400 per square foot. That's right, 3 times more expensive per square foot. A third of the size, same price. $467 versus $1,400 per square foot. Now ask yourself, you and your loved one are on a trip of a lifetime, zipping around the mountainous curves towards that lakeside dream destination. Which one should it be? I'm sure it is this, not the school bus. Why? It costs the same. You would spend the same actual amount, $140K, but the luxury is different. The size doesn't matter. The quality is it. Yet, when you think about your home, you're going for the school bus. Can I spend less per square feet, you ask? Why, oh why? Knock it off already. Instead, spend what you want. We'll figure out the rest and ask for the quality you seek. When you are dreaming of your perfect home, you are not in it to purchase square feet. You're in it for your happiness. There you have it, another stab at exposing this square foot number for the crazy notion it is. I hope this brought some context and clarity to my world of modern and energy efficient homes. Please subscribe to this channel, find yourself to my website, get yourself a copy of my free design starter guide, sign up to follow the making of my new book, Supersizing Bliss, get yourself some Wittehaus swag, and always be welcome to give me a phone call or send me an email. I will leave the links in the show notes. Thank you. Cheers. And so I make the point that for the same price, so the square foot price on a school bus is vastly better than on the Maserati. And so most of my clients that come to me and they say, oh, you know, a school bus must be clearly better because this square foot price is, I calculated, forgot what it was, whatever, $300 per square foot or $800 for whatever it was, versus a couple thousand for the Maserati. So I want the school bus. And the point is, no, you don't. Who wants to drive 2 of you in a rattling old tin can down the mountain? You know, who doesn't want to sort of take your sports car on a spin down the mountain to a beach, you know, on those hairpin curves and rev the engine and, you know, and all of that. And it's, you know, it was turned into a fun little video that, you know, many of people have watched, and it just drives the point home.
Yeah. And really like relating that back to your house too. Like, oh, you know,
yes,
less cost per square foot or bigger size, right? Oh, you can have a 5,000 square foot school bus, or you can have a 2,500 square foot Ferrari.
Exactly.
you know, what do you want to live in?
Yeah, and the sticker price is the same. So, you know, everybody comes with their own budget. And that's also then how sort of, you know, some of these hard truths I try to drive into in the book, where it's the entire building system is centered around those square foot numbers, where banks don't finance a Maserati for you; they finance the school bus. To take that analogy, and even though it's the same cost, right? And so, why is it the bank cannot say, "Well, it's 2 people, you need to drive. I'll finance you the bus, or I'll finance you the sports car. Either way, it's the same sticker price. I'll finance either one of you for you. You can sell either one tomorrow. What's the difference here? You know, and as far as our homes are concerned, banks don't do that. They only they finance the school bus all day long, and so and there's many pieces like that where our system of building homes is corrupted. and it forces us to consider things that are meaningless to us, really, when it comes down to it.
It's a really great analogy and really fun videos. So you also have started a podcast as well. You want to tell us about that?
That's the latest thing, yeah. I'm just following your footsteps piece by piece, Chris. That's all I'm doing. One of these days I'll catch up. But
I think one of these days I'll catch up to you, but whatever.
But it's book grew out of the videos. The podcast is growing out of the book. I'm essentially read a chapter out of the book and then interview an expert and go a little deeper on one of these tangents. And so I'm just at the beginning. I don't know, there's 4 or 5 episodes out there, but at the very beginning of the book, I talk about sort of how nonsensical single-family homes actually are and how there's better, more sensible, more sustainable ways for us to live. And so interviewed Kyle Barker of Primary Projects, who's an expert on co-housing.
Yes.
And so we spent about, 45 minutes sort of going deeper on just that and go on a tangent with him on that. And so I have, a few interviews lined up. And so I'm going to, take the book as a blueprint through these interviews to kind of go deeper on tangents and just kind of, for me to learn, for the people I engage with to learn and just go down without hesitation into some of these things and see what the experts will bring and tell and what we discovered. The co-housing interview already was mind-boggling and interesting and fascinating and hopefully helpful. So the idea there too is just for me to extend the conversations that I have with my clients, with my prospective clients, with the people that are loosely sort of interested and affiliated to what I do, and just spread more of the idea and joy and interests out there and make it available.
So the name of the podcast is Supersizing Bliss, just like the book. And is that on all the podcasting platforms?
It's on all the platforms. Yep. There are many, but so they're definitely on Apple, iPod, or whatever it's called, and Spotify and YouTube, and then a handful of others. And so I would think that every platform is being addressed. Yeah, you can find them in all of them. But the book has its own website, supersizingbliss.com, and there is also the show notes of the podcast episodes are there as well.
Oh, okay. So that's right on the supersizingbliss.com as well?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It might be also a great starting point. Yeah. If you have a hard time finding it on your listening device, there are links there.
Where else can people find you if they want to work with you, if they want to design an amazing modern home with you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, many different ways. The best place is my website. It's Wittehaus, so it's WITTEHA.US. But then you can find me on LinkedIn, both myself and the business, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. A simple search should do it.
Yeah. So definitely contact Toby, design an amazing house together. What I really like is not only is Toby a great architect and a great designer, but he makes the process really fun and he's got the great personality and it's going to be an enjoyable time. So definitely contact him. Unless you're in Massachusetts, then contact me. No, just kidding.
That's right. I'll take care of the other 49 states.
Yeah, there you go. Before we wrap it up here, what's one thing that a homeowner can do to have a more successful project?
Yes, I think you asked me the question before we got on a call, and I completely forgot what I wrote down. I think that based on our conversation, I would say maybe bring a certain openness to the affair and base the relationship on trust. And so, treat it as if you're going to your mechanic or to your doctor and talk about your symptoms or the symptoms of the car and ask tough questions, and also trust then the expertise that your architectural, your design team, or everybody who's involved brings to the table. The folks around us are just, mad craftspeople. They love what they do. They have accumulated a wealth of understanding, expertise, and knowledge about everything around creating a home. And it's worth tapping into that. And so I would say, to all prospective homeowners out there, ask tough questions, but also sort of be open to be surprised and for the better of it, and find new ways about, how this thing can come together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Toby. That is Toby Witte from Wittehaus. Supersizing Bliss is the book, and also Supersizing Bliss is the podcast. And then you can find Toby on YouTube and Instagram and all those other platforms. Definitely subscribe and listen to the Monday Morning Mischief. Subscribe and listen to the podcast. And of course, if you're building a home, if you're about to build a home or renovate your home, get a copy of Supersizing Bliss. It'll be really great for setting your expectations and your mindset right into going into the process. So thank you so much for joining us, Toby.
Thank you, Chris. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.